people because Twitch people aren't here yet. So how has your month been, Lauren?
It's had its ups and downs. My brother moved in with me. That was exciting. My previous roommate moved out. Yeah.
How is living with your brother for probably the second time in your life?
It's good. It's going great. He's a decent amount younger than me. So I'm living with Gen Z. Uh, though my previous roommate was also Gen Z. Keeps me young, you know. Gotta keep up with the lingo.
I was gonna say, I find that hanging out with younger people helps me understand slang so much better than if I tried to do it on my own.
I'm wildly addicted to TikTok. I'm generally up on the trends, but you know, yeah, it's been fun. DC's getting hot. It's starting to, it's full summer here now.
Oh yeah. It's we've been rocking that life for a few weeks now here
Yep.
in Central Virginia. I'm gonna adjust my camera a little bit.
And I've gone to a couple Pride things. That was really fun.
Nice. I did end up doing my ACLU donation, which I, after recent news, was like, you know what? Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Have there been lots of like protests rolling through your neighborhood?
Not through my neighborhood. I did go to a few protests at the Supreme Court. One of the, I think, I don't know if like privileges is the right word, but like responsibilities, privileges, things about living in DC and being so close to it is, you get to show up to those things. So, yeah, I went to a couple of protests. A heavier police presence, at least initially, is what I noticed. They
Huh.
will sometimes stage like a bunch of cop cars near my local park.
Interesting. I
Same with
mean,
the National Guard during like January 6th and stuff. They were all like, they used it as like a organization area.
huh. I mean, as long as they are keeping it civil, you know.
Depends on who you are, I think.
um,
How was your month?
it's been pretty good. It's been work has been bananas. It's calming down a little bit. Part of that, we've got 2 interns and we just hired a full timer to replace one of the 2 full timers that left. So he's starting to find his feet a little bit. Our interns have really found their feet, and so things are starting to ease up on me a little bit. But I'm also, it's kind of funny because what I'm learning is that my boss was taking on way too much of stuff that the 2 people below him used to do. And so when things started getting easier for me on my level, he was like, please take care of these things that I've been taking care of for the past 3 months. And I was like, you got it. I'm all over it. And so he now can focus on, even higher things that he was not doing at all before.
Yeah.
So it's like my workload, even though I have 2 interns now supporting my team, my workload hasn't actually reduced that much. At least not that I can tell. I'm just doing a lot more administrative and expertise tasks and a lot less of like, so and so needs a cable. Please take it to their desk.
Yeah. Hopefully it'll kind of all equal out soon.
It always gets a little easier in the summer because people are taking vacation and not a lot of people want to be in the office to begin with, things like that. So I think it'll be all right. I'm seeing the light at the end of that tunnel.
Good. I'm sporting a new shirt. This is my first time wearing it. Check it out.
Ooh.
It's little meeples and like board game pieces. And wait,
Hell yeah.
you haven't seen the best part yet. I have matching pink meeple earrings.
I love them. It's so good.
Yeah. My goal is to be the flyest person at the local board game night. So
you are well on your way, if not there already.
I'm not sure how many other board game themed articles of clothing and jewelry I can get, but I feel like maybe I can like squeeze one more in there.
Like a hat, like a board game themed hat or something, maybe. I don't know. Oh my goodness gracious. So we're a few minutes in now, and I see that a few people have joined us. We will be sans a Sharon tonight. She was not, between work stuff and the delay in getting the book into alpha and things like that, she was not able to get her hands on her copy of Light from Uncommon Stars, so she hasn't read any of it. And so instead of sitting on stream and being like, cool, that all sounds neat, she was like, I'm going to take the evening and relax a little bit, and I think maybe, provided she's got her copy, she might do some reading of the book. I only managed to start reading my copy last week, and I got through 2/3 of it. So I've got strong positive opinions about those first 2/3. So I'm excited to talk about it.
Yeah, I finished. I liked it. I was quite surprised. It wasn't what I was expecting, and it was very, very weird, but I enjoyed it the whole time. It was one of those books where I'm like, nothing is happening plot wise, but I got to read the next page.
There was a night recently, like it was like night before last, or maybe the night before that, where I was just in bed and I was like, okay, I'm starting to get kind of tired. Like I should really find a stopping point in the book. I wasn't like, I'm going to pop the bookmark in and close it and I'll just come right back to this. I was like, I need to find a stopping point. And then I got to the end of the chapter and I was like, well, I don't like, that's a little bit of a cliffhangery kind of spot. Like I want to see at least, and then like, I look at my clock and I'm like, oh God, it's 1:30 in the morning. I have to stop right now and go to sleep. I have work tomorrow.
Yeah. I think one of the things, like, I think we had maybe a month or two ago a discussion on like what we're drawn to in a book. Is it plot? Is it character? Is it prose or something else? And I think for me, this one, it's definitely the characters, I think. World building was like maybe one of the other ones, the other things that draws us to a book. Yeah. And I don't think plot is really what's like the driving force of this book. I think it's definitely like the characters and the character development and watching Katrina grow.
Oh, and for sure.
Yeah. And Shizuka grow like as a person. Oh, it was so nice. It was so satisfying to see their like bond and like trust develop over the course of the novel. And then I think also like the prose, for me personally, like I find books about music to generally be, I'm like kind of skeptical of them because I find them generally to be pretentious and it not really work. Like writing about music. I'm also like not a huge music person, so it's like not something I'm passionate about. So I'm just like, but I think it really worked here. Um, Something
I
about the writing style or like the emotion behind it, or it's how the characters relate to music. It just really worked for me. I enjoy. I don't know dick about violin, classical music. I don't enjoy it. I like Taylor Swift. Like that is my musical genre interest. But I really liked it. I found it was very evocative. Same for the sort of like really loving descriptions of food.
oh my gosh.
Oh,
Tree saying, I loved the extremely evocative descriptions of food and decided not to read it if I was hungry.
I
Which,
know. I was like, God
fair.
damn, do I want a donut right now?
What
Or
I
maybe
would
like
give,
at night and you're like, there's
what I
nothing
would,
in my pantry for a midnight snack.
there were multiple occasions where I was like, what I would give to have a bowl of pho in front of me at this very moment.
Yeah. Like all the tasting notes are described. Again, describing food in books, I find a lot of times doesn't work well, but I think uh Rika Aoki like really she got it. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's kind of funny that you were talking about music books being kind of pretentious because I find a lot of music based fiction to be very like, oh well, it's your understanding of the craft and like the beauty of like how quickly you can do things and the mastery and etc. And it's very clear that Rika Aoki also didn't want that kind of story to be what this was,
Yeah.
given that she's quite literally like, oh yeah, my main character, she plays gaming music mostly.
I loved that. And I figured you would have opinions about the gaming music too, because I know again, similar to music, I don't know much about video games. Um, but the the one they keep referencing that's like a metaphor for um Shizuka and Katrina's like approach to or new approach to their problems, the Nether Tail, the one with
Yep.
the no kill route. What is
Yep.
that video game? Because it's a video game. Is it
Yes,
Undertale?
it's Undertale.
Okay.
It
It
is no question a
yeah,
direct reference to Undertale. Literally, the only thing she changed is that in Undertale, you're in the underground, which is just it's a city of monsters that is below the surface of the planet. And in Nethertale, you're in hell. That's literally the only thing changed. Like everything else is basically the same. Like the theming of those two locations. That's it.
yeah.
Because everything else is like there's the no kill route, and you make the friends as you travel along, and your whole goal is to get out. But it seems like you're gonna have to fight to do that, but you don't actually have to fight to do that. Like, yeah, that's all Undertale reference.
I loved it. So like even like I didn't get the video game reference like truly because I hadn't played it, but it's still I feel like threaded throughout the novel and like pulled it together and like at the end Shizuka's like working on a piece inspired by that video game. It was great and I loved the blending of like stuffy classical music, like violins and curses and like Stradivarius and like with video game music and YouTube and Lindsay Sterling and anime. It felt very intentionally modern in a way that it didn't have to. It could have gone the dark academia route, which is like, but it intentionally. I think the book is kind of goofy and modern, and I think it also links into sort of the like Asian American experience and like the melting pot. That's kind of another like theme that runs through the novel. I've never been to LA, but boy, or like Southern California, but I really want to go now. Like it it's clearly, I love when like locations are kind of characters in books, and it felt like that for this book.
I have been to LA. I have not been that much in areas like they were describing, but even being in kind of adjacent areas, I was like, no, this all makes sense for the region. This all, my limited experience checks out with all of this. I imagine someone who actually lived in LA would have their own opinions, but I spent 2 weeks traveling up and down California as a state. So I got to spend a fair amount of time in a bunch of different locations, LA being one of them. I spent like 4 or 5 of those days in LA, which is not hard to do.
Yeah,
It is massive.
that's awesome. Yes, it feels like the whole sci-fi alien family running a donut thing shouldn't work, but I really feel like it did. Like it was super weird, but very sweet. And like
There's
a metaphor for like the immigrant experience, obviously, but like one that I think worked and was endearing. Um,
one of my favorite scenes in the whole book is when Shizka and Lan are at dinner for one of the first times, and they're kind of trying to get a feel for each other. And then Shizuka is like, so, what was it like bringing your family over? And Lane was like, how does she know about the Galactic Empire? Like, what's happening here? And then finally it's like, how did you know that we were Galactic Imperial citizens? And Shizuka is like, what?
yes, that
Like
was super charming.
the whole sequence is so cute and endearing and hilarious all at once.
Yeah, uh, the whole the whole family, the whole Tran family was like super sweet. Um, and the donut shop, I don't know. It's like it reminded me a little bit of like Bob's Burgers, like the whole like family dysfunctional dynamic, like running, not dysfunctional exactly, but like running a humble like little food stand. I don't know.
I mean, there's a little bit of the like family interpersonal drama. I kind of enjoyed how you meet the trans before you really understand who they are as people. And you kind of get like bits and pieces here and there. And then finally it's like, yeah, we're aliens and this is a hologram. And everyone calls me mom.
Yeah. Uh, I think the book also had some interesting things to say about like being a parent. Um, and teaching and like and raising children, and I spent the whole book wanting to know what was up with the cover. Like it didn't seem related at all to what I was reading. Why not a donut? Why not a violin? Until I got to one part, and since Sharon's not here, I had to, be the one with the quote for once. And so uh, this is 273. Let me see. 272. The Queen of Hell smiled and looked through her window down at the fish pond below. Her father had dug that fish pond, stocked it with koi, before she had been born. She thought of how many koi that had been trapped there over so many years, how many parents had lived in that pond, how many children had each of them had, yet the pond did not acquire more fish. For the older ones, the graceful ones, the chosen ones, the brilliant ones, the ones gilded with darkness, with flame, were also the ones that ate their young. And I don't know if you've gotten to that part, Josh? Okay.
That is an amazing line, though.
And Shizuka like thinks about how she relates to Katrina and how she has been a teacher who's kind of, used these people, like her students, for her own purpose. And Lan at one point says that she would have made a good mother. And I generally am like skeptical of putting women into like the box of motherhood in books and in life, but I thought it really worked here with how she like grew and how sort of caring and like mentoring someone like changed her as a person. I really like that quote, and sort of later on how she reflects on it, which you'll get to.
I'm sure I will. Something I noticed kind of early on, and Tree also commented on this, is that there's a lot of different kinds of family dynamics in the book. Because you've got the trans who are really, they're just a unit that are trying they're most desperately to stick together. And yeah, they've got goals and they've got things they're trying to accomplish, but the primary focus with that family seems to be the family more than anything else. And then you've got Shizuka and Katrina, where it's like it's very much a foster parent sort of situation where it's like your parents clearly weren't taking good care of you. You can't be on your own right now. And I'm going to make sure that you are protected and safe and loved, at least at the point I'm at in the book, until I can consume your soul. But even with that, the whole like the amount of protection and guidance and her status as a guardian, none of that's in question because she's protecting Katrina, but also trying to like nudge Katrina along to her own personal growth. And then you've got Lucy and Andrew. Was it Kathleen? Where it's like,
isn't it Mattia?
Oh my god, I have no. I'm so. You know what? I might be thinking of the grandfather's first name.
I think so. Yeah, I think it's the Mattias.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's the Mattias. So the Mattias family, the Mattia family, where it's like a legacy family, where like Tree said, you have the hands of a Mattia, and here is Lucy doing her best, but feeling like she's not the right fit for the role. And it's like, but you are, though. You're so much a better fit than any of the ones who didn't want to listen and didn't want to pay attention.
It's the like acceptance of parents to their children is like definitely, I think, a theme. Like they, like the Mattias, don't accept Lucy because she's a woman. She'll never have the hands of the Mattia. She'll never inherit their trade. Katrina because she's trans, and Shirley because she's an AI. And they all kind of work through and overcome that in different ways. And like Lucy, overcomes her internal feelings of like inadequacy, and Shirley reconciles with Lan and is like seen for who she is, and Katrina finds a new family. And yeah, the themes of sort of familial acceptance are woven throughout in a bunch of different ways.
I really, really appreciated the scene where Lucy is just starting to really like feel her own self as she's working on Katrina's violin, and her son Andrew comes in at one point and it's like, "Oh, I actually I could I could help you with this." And she's like, "I didn't think you were interested in learning this. I don't have the skills that your grandfather had." And he's like, "Yeah, but grandfather also liked to hit things."
Yeah.
And it's
The
like,
hands of the Mattia meant something very different to him than it did to
right.
me. Yeah.
Right. And so like here she is desperately trying to cling to this legacy, and it's only by kind of moving forward from that legacy that the legacy can continue. Like I this is my first time reading a Rika Aoki book, but I'm all about it. I would love to see more work from her because this is amazing.
Yeah, I hadn't really heard of her before. I'm gonna have to check out some of her other books.
This is one of those things that's so funny to me about the book, is that there's constant references to Shizuka being significantly older than she looks.
Yeah.
And how like, oh yeah, there's a picture of Grandpa Mattia hanging out with Shizuka, and like they're palling around, and then he grows super old and dies, and she's like, yeah, I'm still rocking it, still looking great, still fabulous. And
yeah,
everybody's like,
the Queen of Hell is.
and I love that, like, not only is it a nickname that is kind of like, oh, but like she owns it, because she's like, yeah, no, it makes sense.
Yeah. She's a very fun character.
How did you feel about the sequence where Shirley does some internet research on Shizuka and then decides to confront Shizuka and Katrina with that information? Because that was a lot.
Where she's like, oh, Katrina, like, she's only helping you because she's gonna steal your. Did she reveal the whole thing?
Yeah, she was like, yeah, here's what I found on forums, and here's the evidence, and it's pretty damning.
Yeah,
no pun intended. And Katrina's like, no, it makes sense. That checks out.
I thought it was very sad that, like, but like not surprising that Katrina kind of, everything in her life had been transactional. No one had helped her just to be kind. You saw it with her, like, the previous place she stayed with, like, the guy she met at, like, a youth camp.
Oh my God.
You saw it with her parents, with the sex work. Like, everyone, no one was interested in her. No one was interested in what she had to say. And, like, that she didn't expect any different. She was, like, always looking for the catch. Like, oh, it makes sense that she's only helping me because she wants something from me. I was like, oh.
I know.
It was very, I don't know. Yeah, it was sad. Just like the matter of factness. But she learns and grows.
I know. I feel like it's a more beautiful story for that. They could have had Katrina be a little more flawless, a little more like, well, my tortured past makes me a better person than anyone in this entire book. And most of the time that's true. But having those little, like, well, no, like, I'm not worth it. That's why this is happening anyway. And then, like, giving her that opportunity to learn and grow and blossom, and just like, oh my God, I the part of the book that I made it to, which I'm really glad I got to this part before the stream, is right after her first performance on a stage.
Oh, I loved the description of the first performance.
Oh my God. Like, I've gotten up on stage in front of people before and I've performed things before, and I don't know, like obviously this is like that to the nth degree, where like she's just wowing the entire audience. But I don't know, the little glimpses of that I've had for myself have been really, really, really touching. Like, to see people smiling, to see people having a good time. It's like, yes, this is what I'm here for. This is what I'm doing. Yes.
Yeah, I really liked that scene. Like finding like the kid with like the Pokeball on their like violin case, and like it felt very I don't know, real, and like the diversity of like ages and interests was very endearing.
It was,
Um,
the whole sequence is just really touching and beautiful, and I love it.
yeah, it was great. That's actually, I think, probably one of my favorite scenes from the book. I feel like it's definitely like a big culmination of a lot of I think energy.
I'm trying to think what else we should get into as far as like discussion topics for the book at large.
I have my little scratch note here,
Mm-hmm.
and we talked about food. We talked about melting pot / Asian American experience.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about music
Mm-hmm.
and family. I think maybe what the end play means,
Oh yeah.
and the I can't really talk about it without spoiling things. Too bad, but
I mean,
the concept of the end plague, I think, is interesting. I mean, it's certainly like one of the theories of like why we don't see that much, intelligent life and whatever. Like this classic sci-fi theory is like, well, people discover nuclear energy and bombs, and then most of the civilizations don't make it past that, right? And so it's kind of like got that kind of vibe where they do basically what's the word for it? Nihilism sets in, I guess.
Yep.
But the book kind of argues that like that's built into humanity, baby. We don't gotta worry about that. We've been fighting it since day one.
Like, just talk to literally any millennial and you will, and
the thesis of the book is that art and music is the answer to what is the point of living, that like connection and all of that. And through the book, like they're always like, why do they spend all their technology and time on this internet thing, on like this advanced network, instead of like physics, instead of solving whatever this hidden equation is. And so the argument is that's the cure to the end plague, to nihilism, to your own mortality. Again, like the search for the immortal, trading your soul for notoriety and wanting to live forever and all of that.
I had started out being like, when we introduce an entire family of aliens running a donut shop, I was like, is this going to be too much? Are we going to have too many plots going on? Is it going to be kind of jumbled because of that? But the way they make everything work together, I think makes a lot of sense from a narrative standpoint, because it's all about like finding purpose and finding meaning and finding beauty in all things, and not just, living life to live life.
Mm. Yeah, you get to watch Lan do that as she slows down to taste the food, and which like her family's been doing. She's like, I don't know why people don't like these replicated donuts. And then finally she slows down to like taste the food and enjoy life, and the feelings that were put into that food, and then eventually slow down to listen to the music. And
Oh gosh. I All right. While you are navigating your smoke alarm emergency, hopefully
I
did it
I
stop?
think it stopped. There is no fire in here.
I hope not. Gosh.
There's not even a candle. And the smoke detector is right there. That's what was beeping.
Maybe the battery's going bad. I know that can be a thing. What I was going to say is I found the end plague to be a really interesting concept from the stance of it. When you've got a society of people who all don't really think about, like, they're mostly focused on survival and advancement of their race and things like that, and then they start to think about like, oh, but what is our purpose? Like, what is our goal? Like, what are we doing? And then they find out that there's, you hit a certain level of technological advancement and you realize there is no like divine purpose to the universe. There's just, you live and you do what you do. I could absolutely see that for a survival or advancement focused race being like, oh no, that's all that we're here for us, and then trying to find meaning in things that are not advancement and are not in survival, and that wiping out whole civilizations because of it. Like it makes a lot of sense to me. I know a lot of theories about like the Fermi paradox have been, well, maybe there's some kind of plague, or maybe there's an alien race that just like munch, crunch, munch, like, oh, delicious alien races. And we're just not advanced enough to be on their radar yet. I don't really love those theories, in part because they're spooky, and I don't like spooky, like, universe expanding theories. But the concept of like, oh, well, it's just that everybody gets too sad and then they, go nuts because of how sad they are. I kind of love that. Kind of love that. Even though it's still grim, it's like, as grim theories go, I'm like, no, I could see how that would work out. That makes some sense. And then humans are largely immune to it because we've been so focused on things other than survival and advancement for so many centuries at this point. Like, what can we say?
Yeah. I would read a sci-fi novel about the struggle with the end plague, which I guess I kind of did already, but I would read another one. And I have relocated to the downstairs.
Gotcha.
There was no fixing it. I'll do that later.
Oh no. Oh no.
But yeah. Do we want to do book recommendations?
Yeah, let's do book recommendations. So, folks in chat, throw anything in that you'd like to be added to the poll list. I'm going to shoot for 5. If we don't get 5, that's fine. I can create a poll out of 4 or 3 or whatever. Um, and then let's maybe discuss having a theme for next month, Lauren, and maybe we'll do a host chosen for that, because that'll put us a little ahead even.
Yeah.
So coming up, the next book that we have is Kings of the Wild by Nicholas Eames. It was a very close race between that and Meddling Kids, and Kings of the Wild just pulled ahead. I think my leaning was probably that, since it was the book I suggested. So it would have been 2 votes that it won by, which is not a lot when we've got now like 14 or 15 people voting. So the basic concept of the book is it is a band of mercenaries that are long since retired, who are getting the band back together because I believe, if I recall the synopsis I read correctly, one of the band members' children have been kidnapped. And so they're like, we got to get his kids back. And so, they get the band back together. It's supposed to be pretty comedic. It's, I guess, a little gruesome based on the tags I saw on Storygraph. There was like violence, gore, things like that, some alcoholism. So I'm intrigued by a little high fantasy comedic antics for sure. So for the following month, Lauren, what do you have for me?
All right. I have 2 sci-fi novels. I'm going with short and sweet as the theme. And so I've got the first one here, which is The Space Between Worlds. I haven't read it yet. I think it is maybe new adult, maybe older YA. I'll read you, since I haven't read it, I'm just going to read a little bit of the back.
Yeah.
Multiverse travel is finally possible, but there's just one catch. No one can visit a world where their counterpart is still alive. Enter Kara, whose parallel selves happen to be exceptionally good at dying. From disease, turf wars, or vendettas, they couldn't outrun. Kara's life has been cut short on 372 worlds in total. On this dystopian Earth, however, Kara has survived. Identified as an outlier and therefore a perfect candidate for multiverse travel, Kara is plucked from the dirt of the wastelands. Now what once made her marginalized has finally become an unexpected source of power. She has a nice apartment on lower levels of the wealthy Waldorf city. And yeah, anyway, it goes on. But basically, dystopian multiverse travel controlled by corporations.
Hell yeah.
Profit. So there's some like capitalism, some world jumping, and yeah, new adult or what? I think, I'm not really sure. Some things are called YA that shouldn't be called YA. And some things that are called adult should be called YA. So that's one of my recommendations. And then the other is Elder Race by Adrian Tchaikovsky. And the tagline for that is, in Adrian Tchaikovsky's Elder Race, a junior anthropologist on a distant planet must help the locals he's sworn to study to save a planet from an unbeatable foe. So a anthropologist is on a planet, and the people that they're studying are facing some kind of threat, and he has to break sort of, is it the Prime Directive? Is that Star Trek? To like not interfere? Yeah. He has to like grapple with whether he should interfere or not. And I think the science might be so advanced it seems like magic, kind of one of those situations. This is one of the ones up for the Hugo novella. It's only like 200 pages. So both of these
Ooh,
guys are relatively quick reads.
excellent.
Those are my recommendations.
Tree in chat has recommended meddling kids for next time.
Round
So
two.
I will put meddling kids back on the board to see if it manages to do a little bit better than it did this month. Gosh, I had something I was going to recommend and it's completely escaped my brain. No, I hate when this happens. I'll have to put it in chat. It'll be okay. It was something sci-fi too. That's the thing that's bugging me because I haven't. It's like right on the tip of my brain, and it's just not. And the more I think about it, the more it's going to escape me. I just know it. So I will put it in the Discord. If anybody watching is not already in the Discord, it's bit.ly/goblin discord, and just set yourself up with the bookish role in the server nexus, because that'll give you access to the book club channel and all of our various bookish threads that we have running at any given time. I've got 3 books. I'll try and get 2 more. Lauren, what do you think would be a good theme for, if we're voting on the book that we're going to read in August, a good theme for September? Be a little bit of that fall weather.
I think Dark Academia could be a good theme. I think reading a spooky book in September, I don't mind doing 2 spooky books.
A little lead up to the spooky season. Yeah. I like that.
What other are good September reads?
I mean,
Dark Academia. I think that's the one I would recommend. It's kind of like fall. It's like going back to school time.
Yeah, I'm about it. Okay.
Also do like space opera or cozy fantasy. I heard about this book called Legends and Lattes, which is pegged as like a cozy fantasy. It's about, I think, an adventurer that retires and opens a coffee shop, like in a D&D world. It's like an orc or something, opens a coffee shop, and then it's just like, I don't know what happens next, but the cover is really darling if you want to look it up.
I mean, just based on what you've said, I love the concept. I'm very excited about that.
Oh, a novel of high fantasy and low stakes. That's the tagline.
Hell yes. Oh my god. Oh, I'm so torn. You could
put that in for this week too, if you really wanted.
I might put that. That might be my new vote. Whatever I forgot wasn't worth it. I'm putting Legends and Lattes in instead.
I'll read a little bit of the description. Legends and Lattes, high fantasy with a double shot of self-reinvention. Worn out after decades of packing steel and raising hell, Viv, the orc barbarian, cashes out of the warrior's life with one final score. A forgotten legend, a fabled artifact, and an unreasonable amount of hope lead her to the streets of Thune, where she plans to open the first coffee shop the city has ever seen.
I'm sold. I was sold very quickly. That's 100% the thing I'm going to put on as my recommendation. Cause like, I don't know, like I'm really feeling I could use a chill book vibes right now. Like not because Light from Uncommon Stars is stressing me out. I'm loving Light from Uncommon Stars, but because like, I don't know, I got a lot going on right now. I could use a little chill times.
Yeah, the cover is really cute.
I'll have to pull it up. All right. We've got room for one more. If anyone in chat has one more, but I think for you and I, let's, if you're ready, move into things we'd like to plug.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, what do you got for me this month, Lauren?
All right. This month, I would like to plug the Richmond Reproductive Freedom Fund. I'm not in Richmond, but I know many of our viewers are, and they provide help funding reproductive services, including abortions and travel and all sorts of stuff like that. So they're a local organization. There's also the DC Abortion Fund, which sort of is where I'm at. And they do really great work too. Those are what I'm plugging.
Hell yeah. I am going to plug that Lauren and I, and probably Sharon, provided she can get the time off work, and a bunch of the other Goblins and Growlers crew are going to be at QCAC in August from the 5th to the 7th. So if y'all have a little time and a little money for some convention tickets and you're comfortable going to a convention, it'll be masks and full vaccine required, or proof of a negative COVID test within 72 hours of arriving at the event. And we're going to be there doing panels and live shows and running a merch booth and running games, and it'll be a ton of fun. So I'm very excited for that. That is Queen City Anime Con, which their website conveniently is queencityanimeCon.com. So if you want more details, you can find them there. All right. I think I'm all set for right now. I will remind chat we have space for one more book. I will also let book club chat know on the Discord. That one more time is bit.ly/goblin discord if you're not already on there. So I'm excited. I'm so thrilled by the concept of, honestly, all of these books. It's not every month that when I put up the poll, I'm like, oh, don't make me vote. I don't want to have to vote because it's going to be hard. Sometimes it's like, oh, there's a tie vote and you haven't voted yet, Josh. So pick one. And I have to be like, oh, but they all sound good. This is one of those months. Everybody vote really hard so that I don't have to. All right. Thank you so much, Lauren, for hosting. I'm looking forward to catching up with Sharon when next we see her. And I will catch everybody else. Oh, you know what? I should probably say what date the next stream is going to be. It will be the 26th of July. Tuesday the 26th. Now that we're on this last Tuesday of every month plan, like, it's working out pretty great for me because it makes telling when our next one's going to be so much easier.
Yep, just added it to my calendar.
Hell yeah. All right. Thank you so much for everyone who tuned in. Thank you once again, Lauren, for hosting with me. And I'll see everybody in a month and in chat in the meantime. Bye, y'all.